Most people believe age alone takes life away, but that's not the truth. The real killers are quiet, subtle, invisible. They show up as daily habits, emotional patterns, and silent neglects. It's not the body that gives up first. It's the mind, the spirit, the loss of purpose, and by the time the symptoms appear, it's often too late. Strangely, it's not the number of candles on your birthday cake that determines the fading of life's flame. It's the slow erosion of meaning, the dulling of clarity, the retreat of joy. Over time, unnoticed and unchallenged, these forces slip in quietly, like shadows at dusk, stealing vitality one unnoticed moment at a time. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness, because once you see these hidden forces clearly, you can push back and add years not just to your life, but life to your years. Stay until the end. The final reason is the most overlooked, and the one that matters most. Inflammation, the fire you ignore. Most people over 60 are walking around with a fire inside of them and they don't even know it. Not the fire of passion, not the fire of drive or creative spark. This is the fire of inflammation. Silent, chronic, and unseen, yet always there. Like embers under ash, it smolders beneath the surface, burning relentlessly through tissues, nerve endings, blood vessels, joints, and even the brain. And because this fire doesn't scream or shout right away, people shrug it off. They normalize the warning signs. They say it's just part of getting older. But is it really? Let's be clear. Fatigue, stiffness, brain fog, aching joints, and slow recovery are not normal signs of aging. They're red flags, subtle but powerful. That underlying burn you sometimes feel, it's not just wear and tear. It's your immune system stuck in a loop, misfiring, staying switched on when it should be resting peacefully. It's your own body treating you like an enemy day after day. Chronic inflammation is the unspoken enemy behind almost every major disease in the second half of life. It's more than just an immune response. It's a failure of regulation, a condition where the body forgets how to shut off the alarm. And when that happens, damage begins everywhere. The heart swells and grows inflamed. Arteries lose their softness, stiffen, and grow crusted with plaque. Blood pressure rises. Joints swell, crack, and break down, leading to arthritis, limited mobility, and unexplained pain. The brain, too, becomes inflamed. Thoughts slow. Mood shifts, memory fades. Over time, it evolves into dementia. Even cancer finds fertile ground in an inflamed body, feeding off the chaos to grow and spread. And still, people chase the symptoms instead of questioning the root. Their joints ache, so they get injections. Their blood pressure rises, so they reach for pills. They feel tired, so they down another cup of coffee. They feel foggy, so they blame their age. But who's asking the deeper question? Why is the body inflamed to begin with? Why are your cells treating a normal day like a battlefield? Why does your immune system attack its own tissues like they're foreign invaders? These are the questions traditional medicine often skips, because they require more than prescriptions. They demand lifestyle changes, awareness, ownership. The truth is, inflammation doesn't just fall from the sky. It builds, slowly but steadily, like bricks laid one by one. It's built from years of neglect, from nights of poor sleep, from foods processed beyond recognition, from stress that lingered and was never dealt with, from shallow breathing, locked up emotions, and days spent sitting too long in silence, from the moments you told yourself everything was fine, while your body whispered that it wasn't. And what starts as low-grade inflammation, morning stiffness, irritability, slight forgetfulness, can quietly grow. It spreads like a fire left unattended. You don't notice it until it burns through something vital. Here's what most people miss. You can be inflamed without ever running a fever. You can have inflammation raging through your system while your blood pressure reads normal. Inflammation doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just whispers. You feel it in your skin when it bruises more easily than before. You feel it in your digestion when foods you once tolerated now cause discomfort. You feel it in your energy, when an ordinary day leaves you completely drained. And you feel it in your recovery. That small strain that should have healed in days lingers for weeks. A simple ache becomes a stubborn reminder. That's inflammation, quietly keeping your body in a state of emergency, as if danger is always around the corner. And yet, there's no crash, no explosion, just a slow burn beneath the surface. If you want to live past 80, not just survive, but truly thrive with clarity, movement, and presence, you have to lower the fire. You have to cool the system from the inside out. And that doesn't begin in a pharmacy or inside a pill bottle. It starts in your kitchen. It begins in your nervous system. It starts in the tiny decisions you make every single day. It begins in the first hour of your morning and the last hour before bed, the two bookends of your life's daily rhythm. Because inflammation isn't born from one choice or one bad habit. It's a lifestyle-driven condition built from 1,000 small decisions stacked over decades. A slow accumulation of misfires, each one setting a spark until one day the body forgets how to put the fire out. So here's what to change. Eat for function, not for trends, not for comfort, but for clarity and resilience. That means real, whole foods. Vegetables that still look like they came from the earth. Fish that once swam wild. Berries, healthy fats, and ingredients your ancestors would recognize. Your immune system reads everything you eat like a message, like a signal. Processed oils, refined sugars, chemical additives. They don't just fill your stomach. They confuse your system. They trigger defense. They whisper danger to your cells, and your body, ever loyal, responds with inflammation. But whole vegetables? They soothe. Wild salmon? It nourishes. Berries? They don't just taste sweet. They calm the storm. These foods cool the flame. And move. Move every day, not to burn calories or chase a number on a scale, but to keep your blood circulating, your lymph flowing, and your immune cells traveling freely. Even a 10-minute walk can reduce inflammatory markers in your blood. Your body was designed for movement. In stillness, stagnation grows, and where there is stagnation, inflammation follows. Sleep. Deeply, not just for rest, but for repair. During deep, slow-wave sleep, your brain flushes out the inflammatory waste that builds up during the day. If you miss that window, toxins accumulate quietly, and that groggy, heavy feeling in the morning, that's not age, it's unflushed inflammation. It's your body begging for restoration. Manage your stress, not by distraction, but with discipline. Breathe slowly. Get quiet. Let go of the mental noise. Stop arguing with life. Every unresolved emotion, every unspoken fear, every moment of resistance keeps your system locked in fight or flight mode. And when that happens, cortisol rises. Chronic stress becomes chronic inflammation. And finally, stop lying to yourself. Stop calling it aging when deep down you know something is off. Your joints don't ache for no reason. Your energy didn't just vanish overnight. Your brain did just slow down randomly. Your mood did just shift without cause. These are not mysteries. They are messages, signals, warnings. And the longer you ignore them, the louder they get until they can no longer be silenced. Here's the truth most people won't say out loud. Aging doesn't kill people. Inflammation does. Aging is natural, but inflammation is the accelerator. It's what makes 65 feel like 85. It's the hidden hand behind sudden diagnoses that seem to appear from nowhere, but in reality, they were growing for years, fueled by an internal fire that no one wanted to face. It doesn't announce itself with sirens. It arrives quietly, through fatigue, through apathy, through aches and stiffness. It shows up in that strange sense that you're not fully yourself anymore, that something is slipping, and if you don't take it seriously, one day it becomes something deadly, a stroke, a heart attack, a cancer diagnosis. And then, everyone says it came out of nowhere, but it didn't. The fire was burning the whole time. So stop ignoring the fire, cool it. Feed your body what it truly needs. Move with intention, rest with care, heal with patience. Pay attention to the signals before they become sirens. Because inflammation doesn't have to be your fate. But if you don't address it, it will shape your future. Posture, the collapse before the fall. Most people don't lose their independence because of disease. They lose it because their body collapses slowly, quietly, one forgotten muscle at a time, until one day they find themselves hunched over, shuffling their feet, relying on walls and furniture just to stand, telling themselves it's just old age. But let me tell you something hard that most doctors won't. You don't need a cane because of your age, you need it because your spine collapsed, because your core stopped firing, because your glutes forgot how to activate, because your chest caved in and your shoulders rounded forward. And once that becomes your norm, everything downstream starts breaking down. Muscles weaken, joints misalign, organs shift under pressure. This collapse doesn't happen overnight. It's the slow, creeping result of years. Years of sitting too long, of moving too little, of breathing too shallowly. Your pelvis begins to tilt forward, pulling your lower back with it. Your hip flexors tighten like ropes left in the rain. Your thoracic spine rounds, and your chest draws inward. Then, your head starts to jut out past your shoulders. Slowly, silently, your body forgets how to stand tall. And when posture begins to fade, so does confidence. You no longer walk with ease or certainty. Your stride shortens. Your steps become hesitant. Your balance, once automatic, now feels fragile. But you're not falling because you're old. You're falling because your foundation has been slowly, quietly eroding while you weren't paying attention. Postural decay is one of the most overlooked signals of biological aging. Most people think it's just about looks, but it's far more than appearance. It's about function, about systems working in harmony. When your posture collapses, your rib cage can't expand. That means shallow breathing, less oxygen, lower energy. Your digestion, it gets compressed too. Circulation slows. Your organs are literally being squished. How could they work properly in that position? And in your spine, once your sturdy axis becomes unstable, your gait, that natural rhythm of walking, turns into a shuffle. And when the gait goes, the risk of falling goes up, fast. Statistically, a fall after 70 often leads to permanent loss of independence. It begins with a fractured hip, then a long hospital stay, then a wheelchair, and eventually a slow, heartbreaking descent. That's the path. And remarkably, it all starts with posture. But here's what they won't tell you. This isn't destiny. It's a habit. Posture is not fate, it's a pattern. A daily decision repeated so many times that it becomes automatic. And the beautiful part? You can change it. At any age. Your muscles aren't dead, they're just asleep. Forgotten maybe, but not gone. And your nervous system? It doesn't forget how to move. It simply mirrors what you do most often. If you sit slouched for hours each day, your body molds to that shape. But if you begin to reverse that, slowly, gently, your body listens. It remembers. And when you reintroduce alignment, even little by little, your strength returns. You can activate your glutes again. You can reawaken your back muscles. Open your chest. Realign your hips. You don't need a gym. You don't need a trainer. What you need is consistency, attention, and gentle awareness. Start with breath. Most people over 60 breathe like they're surviving, not living. Shallow chest breaths, held tension, low oxygen levels. But if you bring breath back, deep into your belly, into your ribs, into the full dome of your diaphragm, your posture will begin to rise on its own. Because full breathing creates space, and space lifts everything. When your breath expands, your spine follows. Then add small, intentional movements, glute bridges to wake up the hips, wall angels to open the chest, chin tucks to align the neck, hip openers, gentle thoracic extensions. These aren't workouts, they're reminders. Quiet signals to your nervous system saying, this area matters. This strength still belongs to you. Do them daily, not as punishment, as devotion, not because you're trying to look younger, but because you're fighting for function, for freedom, for independence. You're preserving dignity, preserving power. And here's the deeper part that no one talks about. Posture isn't just physical, it's psychological. When your body collapses inward, your thoughts tend to follow. Your worldview narrows, your emotions dip, your confidence begins to erode. Your very sense of self shrinks down. Studies show posture affects hormones. Slouched positions increase cortisol, the stress hormone. They reduce testosterone, the hormone of vitality and strength. You don't just feel weaker, your body becomes weaker. And once that loop starts, it's hard to break. You look down, you feel down. You move less, you isolate more. And life slowly begins to shrink, not because of a major event, but because your spine surrendered without a sound. But here's the miracle. The opposite is also true. When you earn your posture back, your mind rises with it. When you stand taller, you think more clearly. You breathe more deeply. You feel more present, more capable. And others feel it too. No one says it aloud, but everyone sees it. Strong posture radiates vitality. Weak posture signals decline. And the world reacts accordingly. That's why this isn't just about preventing falls. It's about reclaiming presence, reclaiming you. So, if you've been ignoring your posture, stop. Don't wait until a cane is placed in your hand to realize your foundation has been fading. Start now. Sit with intention. Walk with awareness. Breathe with fullness. Stretch the front of your body. Strengthen the back. And remind yourself again and again, this structure, this frame, this upright posture is yours to rebuild. Every day you delay, gravity wins a little more. It pulls you down slowly. Shoulders sag, chest sinks, breath shortens. But every day you fight, no matter how small the action, alignment comes back, strength returns, clarity returns, and your future shifts. 1 inch of effort becomes a mile of momentum, because aging doesn't kill you, collapse does. The kind of collapse that happens so slowly, you don't notice it until one day it feels irreversible. You wake up in a body that doesn't feel like your own. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can rise. You can rebuild. And the moment you do, your body won't just feel different. You will be different. Then, just as your body begins to shift, another challenge appears, quieter, but just as dangerous. Isolation, the silent killer. As we age, something subtle but deeply dangerous begins to unfold, not with a crash, but with a whisper. We start to shrink our world. We stop initiating plans. We stop picking up the phone. The spontaneous yes becomes a habitual, maybe next time. We start saying no more than we say yes. We retire not just from our careers, but from connection, from engagement, from the rhythm of shared life. We go from full social calendars to familiar routines, from laughter over lunch to meals in silence, from being surrounded by people every day to spending hour after hour in solitude. And without even realizing it, we begin to disappear from our own lives, not physically, but emotionally, not visibly, but biologically. And that's when the real damage begins, because isolation, more than almost any other invisible force, is quietly, profoundly deadly. Let's be clear, you can be surrounded by people and still be isolated. You can live with family and still feel completely alone. Because emotional isolation isn't about how close people are. It's about how connected you feel. It's about whether someone truly sees you, whether anyone checks in on your thoughts, your struggles, your daydreams, whether your existence is a shared experience or just a private loop of silence, playing on repeat. And as that emotional distance widens, the consequences go far beyond mood or mental health. They become physiological, tangible, measurable. According to the National Institute on Aging, social isolation increases mortality risk by up to 30%. That's not a guess. That's science. That's not a feeling. That's a death sentence waiting in the shadows. Why? Because isolation doesn't just hurt. It changes your body's chemistry. Cortisol rises, inflammation follows, immune function drops, brain activity slows, memory begins to slip, and depression takes hold. Not because of trauma, but because the body starts responding to a lack of emotional stimulation, as if it were starvation. Because in a very real way, it is starvation. You're starving for interaction, for significance, for resonance. And your biology doesn't treat that lightly. Humans are social creatures. It's in our wiring. From the moment we're born to the moment we leave this world, we are built to connect, to be seen, to be heard, to be mirrored. Your nervous system depends on it. A baby will not survive without touch. An elder will decline faster without attention. That truth never fades. Your biology doesn't retire from connection just because you do. If no one sees you, your nervous system becomes dysregulated. Stress hormones linger in your bloodstream. Inflammation stays high. Healing slows. Recovery takes longer. And maybe most dangerous of all, your motivation begins to disappear. You start to care less. You stop moving. You eat whatever's easiest. You sleep less deeply. You stop stretching, stop walking, stop calling. And a quiet voice whispers, "What's the point?" No one's watching, no one's listening, no one's asking. And your brain adapts to that loneliness the same way a muscle adapts to disuse. It begins to atrophy. You forget names, you lose interest in stories, you stop sharing, and slowly, color drains from your inner world. Not because you're broken, because you're disconnected. But here's what most people don't realize. Your biology is always listening. The moment you reconnect, even in the smallest of ways, your entire system begins to reverse the damage. When you laugh, when you sit next to someone and feel their presence, when you tell a story and someone listens, really listens, your cells come alive. Your nervous system exhales, your heart rate steadies, your digestion improves, your immune response strengthens, your focus returns, and your vitality quietly reawakens. Why? Because you've re-entered the human feedback loop. You are no longer lost alone in the forest of your own mind. Someone else is there, witnessing, reflecting, responding, mirroring your aliveness back to you. And that's not just nice, that's necessary. And if you're over 60, this is not a side note. This is a primary health strategy. It's not optional. It's not a luxury. It's as vital as sleep, movement, and nutrition. Forget supplements for a moment. Forget anti-aging creams promising youth in a bottle. If you truly want to live longer, and more importantly, live better, then build relationships. Reconnect. Reclaim your emotional space. Expand your emotional footprint like a tree stretching out its roots. Volunteer at a local shelter. Mentor someone younger who's still trying to figure out the road you've already walked. Join a book club, even if you've never read a novel in years. Find a walking group, even if you're not the chatty type, not for entertainment, for survival, because your life literally depends on it now. Connection is your medicine now, and you need to take it daily. Just like water, just like air. Don't believe the lie that your social chapter is closed, that making new friends is only for the young, that your best stories have already been told. They haven't. There are people out there who still need what only you can give. Your wisdom, your humor, your scars, your long view of life. But they can't find you if you disappear. You have to show up. You have to be findable, seen, present. And yes, it takes effort. Yes, it feels unfamiliar, maybe even awkward at first. Yes, you may feel rusty, out of rhythm. But what's the alternative? sitting alone in silence, staring at the same walls, slowly convincing yourself that your presence doesn't matter, that no one would notice if you just faded away. That's not aging, that's surrender. And you were not born to surrender. So ask yourself, gently but honestly, when was the last time someone really heard you? When was the last time you laughed with another human being until tears filled your eyes? When was the last time someone asked how you were doing and waited long enough to hear the real answer? If it's been a while, don't wait for the world to come knocking on your door. Go knock on theirs. Be the one who calls. Be the one who reaches out first. Be the one who shows up and says, I'm not done connecting yet. Because here's the hard truth. Once the social world dies, the physical body isn't far behind. Muscles weaken, memory fades, sleep becomes light and restless, and worst of all, that spark, that sacred center of emotional vitality, dims. But here's the good news. Connection can bring it back. Just one conversation, one shared meal, one walk in the park with someone who listens, one moment of being truly seen. That's all it takes to begin reversing the fading, to remind your body and your mind, I am still here, I still matter. Don't let this culture of isolation swallow you whole. Don't accept surface-level small talk and long empty days as your new normal. Fight for depth. Fight for laughter. Fight for friendship and belonging. Because connection isn't a bonus at this stage of life. It's your lifeline. And you are still here, still needed, still capable of creating beauty, joy, and meaning, but only if you choose not to vanish. Stagnation, the brain you stop using. People blame aging for everything. The brain fog, the forgetfulness, the slow reaction time, the pauses in conversation, the hesitation when speaking. But what if that's not age at all? What if those signs aren't inevitable? The truth is harsher, but far more important. Most of what we call aging isn't about time passing. It's about neglect. It's about stagnation. Because the brain doesn't stop working just because the calendar turned another year. It stops working because you stop using it. The research is clear. Not all memory loss is rooted in neurological disease. Much of it is behavioral. When you stop learning, your brain begins pruning itself, trimming back connections that haven't been used. When you stop solving new problems, when you stop being challenged by unfamiliar situations, your brain stops building new pathways. When your hands stop engaging with your eyes in precise, challenging ways, the motor cortex starts to fall asleep. Your coordination dulls, your reflexes slow. And when there's no new input, no curiosity, no struggle, no surprise, the brain doesn't just get bored, it begins to atrophy. Neurons disconnect. Synapses fade. The networks that once lit up with energy and imagination begin to dim. Your capacity doesn't vanish, it rusts. And once that rust becomes your normal, your baseline, you start mistaking it for your identity. You say, I'm just getting old. But the truth is simpler and more hopeful. Your brain is not old, it's unused. Most people hit 60, retire, and, without even realizing it, retire their minds at the same time. They settle into patterns. Familiarity becomes a cage. They eat the same meals, read the same headlines, watch the same shows, talk to the same 3 people. They confuse calm, and in doing so they cognitive autopilot, a state where, here's why your brain is not dizzy. It was never buoyal. Your brain grows through not ECO, not clarity. It trail, because here's the hard truth. If you're not regularly doing something that makes your brain feel uncomfortable, clumsy, or stretched, and if you're declining, not just meta. The structures of your brain physically change. The frontal lobe begins to shrink. The hippocampus starts to weaken. These are, and when that decline starts, it's not loud, it's subtle. Then, quietly and gradually, the fog settles in. A mental haze that doesn't arrive all at once, but builds like a morning mist, growing thicker each day. Not because your brain is broken. No, it's still there, still capable, but it has gone unchallenged, like a tool rusting in a drawer, unused. Crossword puzzles? Sudoku? They may feel productive, but don't be fooled. These are maintenance tools, not growth tools. They help you stay where you are. They don't push you forward. They keep the engine warm, but they don't take you anywhere new. What your brain craves, deeply biologically, is novelty. It needs to be surprised. It needs movement it hasn't done before, languages it's never tried to speak, rhythms it can't yet follow, skills that demand failure before mastery. You must be willing to fall, adapt, and rise again. Because that's how you rebuild gray matter. That's how you wake up entire circuits that have lain dormant, waiting, silent, for you to return to them. It's not about being young or old. It's about being engaged or disengaged. And that brings us to the greatest lie of aging, the most dangerous myth society keeps whispering. That you're supposed to slow down. That it's normal to feel duller as the years go on. That it's expected to become forgetful. That brain fog is just what happens. But that's not truth. That's culture. That's resignation. It's what happens when the world stops demanding your mental energy the moment you reach a certain birthday. When no one encourages you to learn anymore. When no one expects you to create, explore, or challenge yourself. That external silence becomes internal stillness. And soon, you begin to believe the lie. But you don't have to accept that. You can push back. You must push back. Because no one else will do it for you. You have to become your own teacher, your own coach. You have to be the one to raise the bar, to light the fire, to introduce yourself over and over again to the edge of your comfort zone. So, how do you begin? Start small, so small it feels silly. Use your non-dominant hand to brush your teeth. Yes, really. It will feel awkward, but that awkwardness is your brain learning. Then, go further. Write the alphabet with that same hand. Watch how your mind struggles to guide the unfamiliar motion. That struggle is growth. That's wiring new connections across both hemispheres of your brain. Then, take a course. Not one that sounds fun or easy, but one that sounds hard. Something that scares you a little, that requires thinking in new ways. Philosophy, music theory, coding, foreign language. History from a culture you don't understand. Something with rules your brain has never seen before. Something that forces it to stretch. And practice remembering. Don't rely on devices to do all the storing. Memorize phone numbers again. Repeat the names of people you've just met. Recite quotes. Recall them in conversation. Rebuild that internal memory muscle, because it is a muscle. And it can grow just like anything else. Read what challenges you. Don't just read to nod in agreement. Read to argue. Read to debate. Read to be proven wrong. Speak your thoughts aloud. Discuss ideas that leave you spinning, not just smiling. Those are the conversations that change you. These are not hobbies. These are workouts, just as important as lifting weights, if not more. And then, of course, move. Move your body in new ways. Don't just walk. Practice balance drills. Learn to dance. Try martial arts. Anything that forces your brain and body to communicate again. Learning a new movement isn't just about the body. It reconnects you with thought. It rebuilds proprioception, reaction time, coordination. These are not small things. They're the foundations of your mental agility, of your alertness, of your capacity to respond to life with grace and quickness. And these practices, they don't just keep you agile. They keep you whole. Movement is thought in physical form. So don't fall for the comfort trap. Don't let ease deceive you. The moment something becomes automatic, push just a little further. Let it be a little harder, a little more uncomfortable, because the goal isn't to feel smart, it's to feel stretched, confused, curious. Learning isn't a luxury. It's not a bonus activity for spare time. It is survival. Cognitive survival, because the brain was never meant to be a storage bin. It's a processing machine, and if you stop feeding it challenges, it slows down and eventually shuts down. Just like any living thing left untended, your mind begins to withdraw, quietly folding in on itself. What many people experience after the age of 60, that thick, frustrating fog of forgetfulness, isn't random. It's not some mysterious side effect of age. It's predictable, and more importantly, it's preventable, but only if you stop treating your brain like a fragile relic from the past and start treating it like what it truly is, a living system. A dynamic, responsive system that requires stimulation, novelty, effort, and yes, even risk. Like a garden, it needs regular tending. Without that, weeds of stagnation creep in silently. A system that, if neglected, doesn't scream. It doesn't break down all at once. It decays in silence. And by the time you notice the slow fade, the reversal is no longer simple. The repair becomes a mountain instead of a hill. So don't wait. Don't wait for dementia to scare you into action. Don't wait for that uncomfortable moment when you find yourself staring into the eyes of your doctor and realizing you can't remember his name. Start now. Not tomorrow, not when it's convenient. Now. Stretch your brain every single day. Give it something to wrestle with. Let it sweat. Give it a puzzle it doesn't immediately know how to solve. Learn something difficult, something unfamiliar. Push yourself until your mind feels uncomfortable, and then stay there. Because discomfort is the signal of growth, the friction that sharpens the blade. And what lies just beyond that discomfort? Clarity, strength, longevity. The very things people chase as they age. Better memory, sharper thinking, a sense of vibrancy, are not lost because of age. They're lost because the mind has gone idle. Forgetfulness isn't a curse of growing older. It's a symptom of inactivity, of disengagement. And the only antidote to that slow mental decay is movement. Not just movement of the body, though that's important too, but movement of the mind. Stretch it, stress it, engage it. So move, learn, struggle, repeat, or allow it all. Your thoughts, your presence, your identity, to quietly slip away in silence. And now we come to something even deeper, something far more subtle, yet infinitely more dangerous. Purpose. The decision to live or to fade. This is the final killer, the one nobody sees coming, the most silent and underestimated force behind mental and physical decline. It's not disease, it's not DNA, it's the loss of purpose. And tragically, it doesn't happen in a day. It happens slowly, like a dimmer switch turning ever so gradually, until one day the room is dark and no one remembers when the light began to fade. It creeps in through good intentions, through routines, through the false belief that rest is all we need after a life of labor. Because here's the tragedy. Most people believe they've done everything right. They worked hard. They provided for their families. They followed the rules. And so, when the time comes, they feel they've earned the right to rest. But what they retire from isn't just work. They retire from effort, from making decisions, from setting goals, from choosing their own path, from steering the ship of their own life. They begin to drift. And at first, that drifting feels like peace. No alarms, no deadlines, no pressure. It seems like relief. But peace, when it isn't anchored to a sense of purpose, begins to rot. It mutates into passivity, into numbness, into quiet deterioration. Because your biology, your body, your brain was never designed for endless stillness. You are hardwired to pursue, to move towards something meaningful, something that requires you to be present, something that makes you plan, choose, act. And when that aim, that reason to wake up with intention disappears, your body doesn't throw a party. It downshifts. It interprets the absence of direction as a signal, a conclusion. We're done here. And one by one, your systems begin to shut down. Digestion slows, hunger fades, hormone levels drop, sleep grows lighter and less restful, reaction time dulls, muscles begin to shrink, healing takes longer. The engine of your body no longer sees a reason to keep running at full capacity. The brain stops building new cells. Why? Because the system no longer believes there is a story left to write. It assumes the final chapter has come and gone, not because of age, but because of a choice. And that's the painful part, because not choosing is still a choice to retreat, a choice to surrender, a choice that invites decline, not with thunder, but with silence. You see this all around us. Once vibrant people who led companies, raised families, inspired communities. Now sitting for hours on end, scrolling through endless feeds, watching from the sidelines as the world continues without them. Once the main characters in their own story, now reduced to quiet observers. They go from creators to consumers, from leaders to bystanders. They stop using their voice, they stop standing for anything, and the body begins to reflect the mind's retreat. The spine curves, the eyes lose their spark, the walk slows to a shuffle, and the fire they once carried, it doesn't burn out in a storm. It fades, because they stopped feeding it. But there's another path. The people who live longest and live well aren't necessarily those with perfect medical reports, flawless blood work, or exceptional genetics. In truth, they are often the ones who carry something deeper, something stronger. They are the ones with reasons. Reasons to wake up in the morning, reasons to show up again and again, reasons to serve, to protect, to help, to lead, to guide, to build something, however small. Their reason may not be grand, it might not make headlines or inspire books, but it's real. It could be a garden lovingly tended, a grandchild waiting for a story, a neighbor needing support, a cause that still calls their name, a mission, no matter how humble, that reminds them, I still matter. It doesn't have to be global, it just has to be real. Because what keeps a person moving, what truly pulls them forward, is something that asks something of them, something that whispers, we're not done yet. And when they say yes to that call, when they agree to carry that responsibility, something powerful happens. The body hears it, loud and clear. We're still in this. And it responds, not with poetry, but with biology. Because biology, at its core, isn't philosophical, it's practical. It observes your behavior, your choices, your engagement with life, and it adapts accordingly. If you stop pushing, it stops preparing. If you stop choosing, it stops supporting. The system begins to conserve instead of expand. But the moment you take back ownership, even in the smallest of ways, like choosing to walk with purpose, staying hydrated, paying attention to your breath, the system reactivates. It's like flipping a switch that had grown dusty. Suddenly, cells begin communicating more efficiently. Hormones stabilize, focus sharpens, healing improves. You don't have to force it with willpower. This isn't about discipline. This is biological alignment. A body and brain responding to a message. I'm still participating. Purpose is fuel, not just emotionally, but at the cellular level. So let's be precise. Retiring from stress is good. You've earned that peace, that slower pace. But never confuse that with retiring from leadership, from vision, from responsibility, especially the responsibility you hold over your own state of being. Because the moment you surrender that to routine, to convenience, to the default settings of life, your world stops expanding. And when expansion halts, life begins to contract. The days feel smaller, the weeks blur together. The emotional palette grows duller, fewer highs, fewer lows. Time begins slipping through your fingers, not because it's speeding up, but because it's becoming flatter. You weren't made for that. Even in your 70s, 80s, or 90s, your nervous system is still listening, still adapting, still waiting for a message from the captain, a signal to move, to grow, to try again. And that signal doesn't need to be dramatic. It can be simple. Choosing to mentor someone, learning a new skill, walking every day, not as a hobby, but as a commitment. But that signal must come from within. No one else can hand you your purpose. It must be chosen. So ask yourself gently but honestly, who would be impacted if you showed up sharper this year? Who still needs your voice, your wisdom, your steady presence? What piece of life still sparks your curiosity, even quietly? Chapter of your story still wants to be written. And if you can't answer that right now, it doesn't mean there's nothing left. It simply means you stopped asking. Purpose doesn't abandon you. You walk away from it when you decide, consciously or not, that there's nothing more to reach for. That is the true beginning of decline. Not the body's decline, but the mind's. And once the mind checks out, the body soon follows. So take it back, even if you've drifted. Even if it's been years, even if your circle is smaller now, or your energy has shifted, or your role in the world feels quieter than it once did, the mission hasn't ended. It has simply evolved. Your strength today is no longer about speed, it's about depth. It's not in flash, it's in wisdom. Not pressure, but presence. And make no mistake, it is still needed. The world still needs elders who choose to lead, not just sit. Who stay awake, not just drift. Who stay alive, fully alive, not just alive in body, but asleep in spirit. Because here's the final truth. But you stop steering your life, your timeline shortens fast. You don't get those years back. And tragically, you don't even realize how much you've given up until one day your body forgets how to fight for them. So don't just exist. Decide to live. Don't just last, lead. Pick a direction, any direction, but make sure it's yours. And the moment you do, the body will follow. And when it does, you won't fade. You'll ignite. Because people don't live long by accident. They live long because they resist the slow death of comfort, of disconnection, of shrinking into silence. They live long because they choose to keep pushing against isolation, against weakness, against mental retreat. So, if you're over 60, this is not your winding down. This is your final masterpiece. Breathe with intent. Walk stronger, stand taller, think deeper, connect harder. And live like someone who still plans to be here, strong, sharp, and fully present for many years to come.